Yeah, so welcome to the tutorial. Yeah, so basically what I want to do with you guys today is to just do like a revision of the mock test that you did yesterday, right? So given the fact that we are already 10 minutes, almost 10 minutes late, I'll try to get as far as possible so that tomorrow we can finish off the test. Yeah, so please just try and concentrate so that you don't get left behind. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, so let's, oh yeah, so let's go back here. So I'll just try and download the paper and then we'll have a look at it. Okay, practicals, test. Okay, so here's the paper. Okay, let me just do this actually. So additional files. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, the paper is 180 minutes, which is 3 hours. So ideally, you should try and spend an hour on each question, right? Usually question 1 is fairly straightforward. It's just basically inheritance and polymorphism, as well as composition and delegation. So you've already done that stuff in Computer Science 1B. Computer Science 2A was just you doing that stuff in another programming language, right? So that should be fairly easy to go through. Question 2 is file handling. You only have to create one class and then use the class in main, right? So if you did like your file handling practicals, you also shouldn't struggle with that. So it can be either. It can be text file handling or it can be binary file handling. And then the last question will be GUI, right? So here, if you do get a design pattern, it'll definitely be the visitor design pattern. If you don't get a design pattern, it'll be something like generics, right? So you probably have to create a generic class or something along those lines. So just make sure that you also thoroughly revise your generics. Make sure you understand them. Okay, so let's look at the first question. Okay, so problem modeling. So this is UML. So Flying Chicken Airways is designing a system to store and report on information about its aeroplanes, right? So we have a class called aeroplane. So let's just open here. In the meanwhile, so the aeroplane is an abstract class that stores a current load, which is a random floats between 0 and 100, right? So we don't really care at this point that it's random because we're just drawing the UML, right? So that will only be relevant when we start writing code. So let's create our class, aeroplane. And then so because BIA doesn't really show the difference between an abstract class and a normal class, it's not really visible. What I usually do is I add the abstract as part of the stereotype. Yes. If you? Oh yes, yes, yes. So yes, so yes, yes. Yeah, so when you make it abstract by clicking here, it actually just changes the font so that it's not bold, right? So sometimes it's difficult to see because usually an abstract class will be in italics, right? So you can change it on the styles. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that. Okay. Would it be oblique? Oh, okay. Okay, well, let's try it out. Doesn't really. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, if you're not changing. But yeah, so you can do that if you want, but for now I'll just stick with the abstract. Okay, and then let's add the attribute. Okay, so we need to store a current load as a random float. So we only really care about the fact that it's a float for now. So let's make it a float. And because this is a base class, it has two subclasses. I'll make it protected instead of it being private. Okay, and then let's see what operations we have. So it provides a report load operation, right? So so I'll make this abstract as well because each aeroplane performs its report load differently. Yes. Sorry? So on the labs, I noticed yesterday that DIA is not on the computers, but you can use this URL to access it. So you can just quickly download DIA from here, ac.za, resources, CSC. So if you visit this URL, so let's actually do it now. Then you can just download DIA from here. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So the name of the attribute is current load. So no. So we're doing the function now. So report load does not return anything because the question didn't mention any kind of return type. And then this is also abstract. It's not really going to make a difference in how it looks. And then it'll be a public, no parameters. So that's our function. Oh yeah, actually did change. So that is great. Okay, I actually didn't know you could change the style here. Okay. Yeah, I actually show this to the first years as well. Okay, so and then we have the function, and we have the class, and we have the attribute. So we can move on to the next class. Okay, so let's look at the next class. So there are two kinds of aeroplane, right? So the first one is cargo plane, and the second one is Airbus, right? So the cargo plane stores something called the highest load limit, which is a decimal, and that's all we care about at this point. So we can just make it a double. So cargo plane, and then it has a highest load limit, which is a double, which is private. And then, each airplane implements the report load differently, right? So we have to override the report load function. So then we do that. So report load. Okay, so in this case, it's not abstract, so that's fine. Okay, so that's the cargo plane. Let's create the Airbus. And it has a total travel account. Yeah, so it has a total travel account, which is an integer. So total traveler count, which is an int. Yeah, and then it also overrides the report load operation. Report load. Okay, so that's the inheritance hierarchy. So let's just do this. Yeah, so that's that. And then let's do the containment part of the UML. So an airline has an array list of aeroplanes, and it contains an add plane operation, right? Yes. Uh, no, no, no. So the dotted line is for implementation. So it's when you implement an interface. Yes. Yeah. So remember also UML is not a like a fixed language. Like there are many different kinds of like variations of it. So, but in this course, so we strictly the dotted arrow line is for implementation of an interface, and the solid line is for inheritance. Yeah. So, oh yeah. So we're on this part now. So we have an airline which has an array list of aeroplane, right? So let's do that. And we need to store aeroplanes first. Aeroplane. Yeah, and then do we have any operations? So we have an add plane operation. So obviously it will take an aeroplane as a parameter, right? So we need to create that operation. So add plane does not return value, and it takes an aeroplane parameter. Yeah, and then we have this function as well, report total load, that basically delegates the task to each aeroplane in the list. So let's do that. So report total load, did not specify return type, no parameters specified, so that should be the signature. Okay, and then that's the airline. Okay, so in this case, an aeroplane can exist apart from an airline, right? So this would be an aggregation relationship. Yes. Sorry? Yes. Yes. So if the if the instructions specifically say that, like in this case, because I mean this is ambiguous, right? Because an airplane technically does not only exist like with the existence of an airline. So in the question, we will clarify and say that like an airline will like manage the lifetime of an airplane in the sense that in no other place in the program can an airplane exist apart from an airline. Yeah. Yeah. So if we don't mention it like in this case, then you can make it aggregation, and that's fine. Again. So and then if you make it composition, we usually give half a mark. So you don't get like 0. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, okay. So that is the UML. Oh yeah, also in computer science too, we don't do half marks. We do petty marks or grace marks, right? So we'll give you a tick, but we'll put it in a parenthesis. So yeah, so that's much better than ComSci 1. Okay, so now, oh yeah, so we created the UML. Okay, so now we need to create our project file structure, right? So let's go to our downloads. No, I didn't download the additional files. So download the additional files. And then we need to extract. Yeah, so that's our Q1. And then we go to docs. So we want to save it here. So export. And okay, so let me just store it here for now. Exported. Let's go to the desktop. Here it is. So I create a Word document. And I take my picture, paste it here, and save this as a PDF. So save as a PDF. Okay, and then it should be a PDF. There it is. Take my PDF, go to my project folder, place it in the docs folder, just double check. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so that's perfect. Close this. Okay, and then I upload my current progress to Eve, right? So in my case, I can't upload because I'm not a student. Okay, so now we move on to the code part of the question. Okay, so we need to create a Java project. So let's start with that. So I go to my C drive, I go to Eclipse, I open Eclipse. Yeah, and then create a project. And this project would be my so surname, student number, CSC02A 2022. This is question, so it's the practical test. Question 1. Finish. Create. Yeah, and that's my project. Yeah, so, and then I go to my downloads folder, Q1, copy everything, go to my workspace, open my project, paste, and my UML is here, so everything is great. And I refresh, and everything is in order. Yeah. So now I create my classes. So I usually start with the main class. You might start with a different class. It's really up to you. But yeah, this is what I usually do just to get a feel of things. And then I then go on to the other classes. Okay, so we need to create the all the classes with the attributes and operations, and we need to place them in this package, right? So then we go to the source, create a new package, csc2a.aero.model, and we create a new class. So I'll start with the abstract class, aeroplane, abstract, finish. Okay, this is my abstract class. And so what I need to do now is I need to create my attributes, right? So protected, current load. So that's the current load, which is a float. And then I create my constructor. And in my constructor, I initialize my current load, right? So I just create the constructor with parameters. And I do my assignment. But, so before you continue, remember the question specified that it has to be within a certain range, right? So in this case, it must be between 0 and 100, right? So I have to check for that before assigning the current load. So if current load is less than 0, or it is greater than 100, then I need to shout at the user. So I will say this. Load not within the required range. Yeah, and then current load. Yeah, so that's the error message, and then I can just initialize it to 0, right? So just initialize it to 0.0. It has to be a float. So, and then if that is not the case, then I do my assignment. Yeah, and that is my constructor. So, yeah, so that's the constructor. And let's create the abstract function, member function. So that would be the report load. Okay, so abstract void report load. Yeah, so that's the function, member function. I keep saying that because I'm used to C++, but you should be referring to it as a method, right? So the report load method, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so that's fine. And then let's create our other classes. So we need to create the cargo plane. And the base class is aeroplane. Finish. Yeah, so we have our report load function. Add the constructor. Add our attribute. So for the attribute, it's the highest load limits, right? So private highest load limit. The double. Yeah, so we need to initialize this. So I'll just add a parameter to this constructor. And I need to check if it's between the required bounds. So it must be between 35 and 75. So limit is less than 35, or it is greater than 75. Then I shout at the user. So in the required range, which is 35, 75. Yeah, and then I can just initialize it to whatever number I want. So let's make 35. So there's many types of things you could do here. for example, you could maybe exit the program, right? You could say, for example, system.exit. That's fine. You won't lose any marks. You could initialize it to a value that you want because the question didn't specify. Yes. Yeah, so it's not really the best practice. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you did it, you wouldn't lose any marks. Yeah, so price load limit. So let's initialize it to the minimum value. So let's make it 35. This is not the kind of programming language where you can do that. Okay, so that's our value. And then now we need to use the value, right? So let's use it here. So reporting the load, what must happen? So the cargo plane must print the current load as a fraction of the highest load limit to the standard output stream, right? So that's basically current load divided by highest load limit, right? So so we can do it in one line, but let's just do it like this. So fraction or result is that divided by that. And well, if we really want to be pedantic about it, that, yeah, and then now we have to print this to the standard output stream. So let's, because we are responsible programmers, we use system.out.format. Yeah, so we want to, so I'll just say cargo plane. And we want to output our value, and let's provide the argument. Result, skip a line. What's the next line? Yeah, so that should be fine. And then now, yeah, so that's that for the cargo plane. Let's move to the airpass. Yeah, so here we want to do the same thing. So in the aeroplane class, create the constructor, create our attribute. So in this case, it's the total traveler count, and it is an integer. Yeah, and then so you want to make sure that it's also within the specified range. So that should be between 100 and 500. So if at count less than 100 or greater than 500, then format. So in this case, it's a whole number, so we use that. Must be within the required range, which is 100, 500. Yeah, total traveler count. Okay, and then let's just set it to the minimum value. So 100. Yeah, and then so obviously in your class, yes. Yes. So you don't have to. I actually forgot to do the assignment here, but it automatically assigns it. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Which compiler version would that be? Yeah. 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 Sure. Okay. Well, I actually didn't know that. That is very interesting. I'll try it out. It's probably one of the later versions of the C++ compiler. But yeah, I'll have a look at it. Yes. Yes. Yes, that is actually true. Um, I'm glad someone actually spotted that. So in that case, then we need to do a check. So if, so let's say current load limit is not 0, but wait, because current load limits is, yeah, it should be fine because we'll never have a case where we divide by 0, right? Yeah, so that is fine. So exceeding the highest load limit is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So when, for example, we output the report total load on the on the main function, when we call the report total load function from the airline class, if the maximum load is higher than the allowed load, that's fine, right? The program is doing its job, and the business people will then say, well, we need to do something about it, right? So programmatically speaking, that's perfectly fine. The only thing we need to check for is division by 0, right? That's the most important thing. So in this case, there won't be division by 0. So while I was actually typing this out, I did think about the division by 0 thing, but I was like, um, uh, like, yeah. So if it happens, then we'll deal with it then, because also we are trying to do this within the amount of time that we have. But now that we are looking at it closer, we can't have the division by 0, so that should be okay. Okay, so yeah, okay, so now we need to do the assignment. So this count is count. Okay, so that is great. Report total load. Oh yeah, report load. So in this case, we will just say system.out.format. And what we want to do now is we want to output the, so this is the Airbus. So we want to output we need to do some form of calculation here. So the calculation is current load multiplied by the total traveler count. So result is current load multiplied by total traveler count. Okay, just make an explicit cost, and then output the result, which is that. Okay, and then that should be fine. Okay. And then, so now we want to create the airline. So airline, so let's just try and finish quickly. Okay, so I want to have an array list of airplane, aeroplanes, plane, aeroplanes, private array list. Why? It's weird. It's something I'm not seeing. everything. Okay, so, oh yeah, this is the problem. Okay, so now we want to create our constructor, airline, aeroplanes, new array list. Okay, and then after that, we want to create the add plane function. So add plane, void add a plane. This is an aeroplane, plane, aeroplanes dot add plane. Okay, and then we want to create the report total load. Report total load. And what this does is just it iterates through the list and it just calls the report load of each aeroplane, right? So aeroplane, plane in aeroplanes, plane dot report load, and that dot delegation, and that's the airline class, right? So in the main function, I'll leave this to you guys as a task as part of revision. So write out the main class. So remember, when you create a cargo plane, when you calculate the current load, you must make sure that it's a double or a floating point value in the range 0 and 100, right? And the highest load limit should be a floating point value in the range 35 to 75. And the highest load limit must be an integer in the range 100 to 500, right? So I will complete this and I will upload the full code to Eve. But while I do that, I want you guys to try it out on your own and try to get it right. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, it's just like this.